Hello everyone. In this video lecture, we're going to be going over the instructions and some details regarding the final exam in this course, and we will review some sample questions of the sort that you can expect to find on the final exam that will be posted in the Assignments tab tomorrow. An announcement will also be posted on Omnivox indicating when the test becomes available to you. The final exam does not require a works cited section, first of all. While you will require in-text citations for many of the responses, you do not need, in this case, a works cited page. This is pretty much the only time that you will ever find an assignment in an English class where you don't need a works cited page, following MLA formatting guidelines. This test is divided up into 3 sections. The first section is on quotation integration. The second section is on short answers, which may or may not require quotations. You may provide them if you wish, but you do not need to, unless specifically required by the question. If, for instance, a question asks you to find an example of the literary device of symbolism in the spider's thread, and then analyze it as symbolism, you would obviously need a quotation. However, for the kind of question that I have as an exemplar here, and that we'll go over in just a minute, you don't need a direct quotation. You just need to explain the answer fully. The last section, section 3, is a long answer section, where you'll have 2 questions that should be answered in paragraph form. The 2 paragraphs are not related or connected in any way. You do not need to associate them. You don't need them to fall under one thesis statement. They're completely separate questions. But again, we'll go into that more when we discuss section 3. Section 1 on quotation integration will offer you 4 questions, each of which will be worth 5 marks, for a total of 20 marks. For each of those quotations, none of them are connected. You don't have to associate them in any way. They don't need to be developed together again. You need to introduce each quotation, integrate it into a sentence in accordance with MLA citation and formatting rules, and then explain its deeper meaning and significance. In other words, provide any kind of interpretation whatsoever. Perhaps this quotation reveals something about a theme in the poem. Perhaps it reveals something about a character. Perhaps it is an example of a literary device. You need to take that quotation, put it into your own sentence using proper citation formats, quotations, in-text citations, and the like, and then analyze it or interpret it in some way. You do not wish to simply repeat the quotation or restate its literal meaning. You need to develop it or analyze it. As I say, briefly explore and expand on each quotation in relation to a text's themes, arguments, techniques, and/or devices. Remember that each integrated, introduced, and explained quotation would be a piece of supporting evidence in a full paragraph. Each response should be approximately 3 to 5 sentences. As an example, I have here Sonnet 18 by Shakespeare, lines 9, 13, and 14. You would need to take some part of this quotation and integrate it into your own sentence, introduce it, and analyze it. You would also need to include the appropriate citation for whatever line or lines you are using. Remember that poems, plays, novels, and short stories are cited differently. Plays and poems are cited by line number, whereas short stories and novels are cited by page number. You would do this for all 4 examples provided, or all 4 questions provided. Then you would move on to section 2. Section 2 has short answer questions, some of which are theory, some of which are related to ideas that we have explored in regards to texts, and in each case, you would be developing a short response. These answers should be roughly the same length as one of these integrated quotations, so between 3 and 5 sentences, so long as you explain yourself fully. If you start going beyond 5 sentences and dovetail into unrelated topics, that unrelated material will count against you. So you want concise, well-focused answers. Section 3 is essentially going to ask you to construct 2 body paragraphs. These body paragraphs, or long answer responses, are completely unrelated to each other. So question 1 and question 2 in this section don't need to be tied together. Each response should be provided in the form of a body paragraph with a topic sentence and introduce, integrated, and analyzed quotations within. As an example, how does Rinosuke Akugawa use setting to suggest that human life is ultimately meaningless? Your topic sentence then would probably be something along the lines of Rinosuke Akugawa uses setting to suggest that human life is ultimately meaningless. Then you would take material from the following quotations that I provide you. You should not use everything provided. Select the phrases that you need and nothing more. So, for instance, I have given you here 3 quotations. You don't want to use all of this massive section of a quotation. You probably only want to use a small piece of it. For instance, maybe you're only going to use "the blossoms on the pond were like perfect white pearls." And that's going to be the quotation that you analyze in the first section of your body paragraph. That's fine. Then you would take something from this second quotation, perhaps using "all was silent as the grave, and when a faint sound did break the silence, it was the feeble sigh of a sinner." So you need to take something from each of these 3 quotations, but you don't have to use all of these 3 quotations. You can just take a small piece of it, a sentence, a few key words, and integrate those into your paragraph to help you to develop your argument. In this case, you do need to use all 3 quotations. If you have questions about the objectives of this assignment or the expectations, please get in touch with me. However, I obviously cannot provide you with answers to the questions themselves. I cannot go into the specifics of possible answers or review possible answers. However, if you have questions about expectations for the assignment, I'd be happy to address those. Best of luck with this and all of your other final assessments.